All right, Shalom. First, I want to give all the praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, double honors to the apostles, elders, great millstone, that rule well, that taught us his truth, and blessings to the elect of the nation of Israel. It's Brother Yakao coming with a second part of the indoor camp that I'm doing. And Lord willing, it'll be edifying. You know what I mean? The first part's up. But I wanted to touch on what's been happening at this World Cup. And if you look at the World Cup anyway, you know, the one thing you have to understand is that, I like football. In America, you call it soccer. But the reality of the situation is, for example, I'm here in England, right? And over here in England, we have like the England football team is through to the semi-finals of the World Cup, and who they're going to play next? Argentina. Now, I've never ever in my life supported England. I'll be honest with you. I've always hated England football team, and one of the reasons why I've grown up like that, and I'm going to show you, is because of this man, John Barnes. All right. This man here, John Barnes. I grew up watching this guy, and he was a great footballer back in the days, man. All right, John Barnes. He was Jamaican born. I think he was born in Jamaica. All right, and he played in England, and he experienced a lot of racism, man. And my dad, he's passed on now. You know what I mean? He's in the spiritual realm with the Heavenly Father. My dad told me as a kid. I remember he said, "Look, you know what? There's a black guy that plays for Liverpool, and they throw bananas at him on the pitch, And I was looking up. My dad was like, "Yeah, but the only reason why they throw bananas on the pitch is because he's the best football player on the pitch. They can't touch him, And I was so excited to say, who is this guy? And then I started watching football, and this is one of the most famous images where football fans threw a banana at him, and he just flicked it. As you can see in the picture here, he flicked it with his boot, And it wasn't just him that was going through that. You know what I mean? A lot of black players and other minority players were going through that in the 80s and the 90s. And listen, it's still a big problem in England, Now they've clamped down on it, all right, but racism in football is still a big issue. And he's an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin, and he was fantastic, man. You know what I mean? And without him, Liverpool wouldn't have won all the titles that they won, And then he played for England, and you see him here playing for England. And I remember when England wasn't playing good, every time that he got the ball, or, the players passed the ball to him, the whole crowd, most of the crowd at Wembley, were booing him, man. Okay? And that's just me. I've never ever supported England. I don't give a flying fuck about the England football team. That's just me. That's how I feel about it. Some brothers, we speak, other brothers in the camp, we speak about, this issue. One brother, has a different, what's the word? He has a different view, but that's just me. Okay? So I've never supported England. And if you look at England football team, when they got to the Euros a few years ago, the black players that missed penalties, they all got racial abuse. All right? So racism in football is alive and kicking. As long as Esau's out there, you're going to have a racism in football. Now we go to the World Cup. I'm going to play this. And this is what happens. And this is in America, right? Now, I show Speed. He loves football. He loves soccer. Look at these Argentinian fans and the abuse, the racial abuse that they're giving, you know. And then I'm gonna come back, and you have to understand the history of Argentina, okay, to understand their behavior, okay. I'm gonna play this and we'll come back.
At the World Cup, an Argentina fan racially abused popular Twitch streamer iShowSpeed.
Put up the middle finger, bro. Can I see it? This man's put up the middle finger. You just bad. You bad. You a bad kid. You bad, man. I'm gonna tell your mama. I'm gonna tell your mom. I'm gonna tell your mom you put up the middle finger, kid.
One young fan even gave him the double bird. When Argentina took on Cape Verde, the fan allegedly told Speed, an American, to, quote, go home. One report stated the fan was heard telling Speed to go cry at the zoo, a phrase widely flagged online as carrying racist undertones, wrote the Griot. There was yet another video that went viral in the aftermath of this entire fiasco with the fans and Speed.
Vinicius Junior. Vinicius. 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 Te vas a electrocutar, Vinicius. Ah, no, así hacen los cerdos. Ese es el Mbappé. Vinicius.
De la cola.
Vinicius, no te me electrocutes. Vinicius! Vinicius!
Where a young child calls a monkey walking across an electrical wire star Brazilian winger Vinicius Jr. Many would even remember Argentina's Enzo Fernandez posting himself and some members of the team celebrating like this after winning the Copa.
Introducing the all-new Game & Launcher.
The lyrics to that song that they sang on that bus? Listen, spread the word. They play in France, but they are all from Angola. They are going to run well. They like to sleep with trans people. Their mom is Nigerian. Their dad is Cameroonian, but on the passport it says French. Fernandez would then say he is sorry. I want to apologize sincerely for a video posted on my Instagram channel during the national team celebrations. The song includes highly offensive language, and there's absolutely no excuse for these words. I stand against discrimination in all forms and apologize for getting caught up in the euphoria of our Copa America celebrations. That video, that moment, those words do not reflect my beliefs or my character. I am truly sorry. Commenters online also spotted a racist song being sung by Argentina fans in Los Angeles, California.
Los ingleses siempre corrieron, héroe de Malvinas no lo olvidaremos. Llegan los franceses con el documento que fue para Angola si le dan lo bueno. Andamos refumados tomando cerveza, la bandera argentina está de la cabeza. Y vamos, 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 vamos Argentina. Y vamos, 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 vamos Argentina. Y vamos, 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 vamos.
One user transcribed it as follows: let the Frenchmen come with the document. Let them play for Angola if they've got the balls. The new banger from the Argentina crowd, messing with the Africans who play for France. This remains an issue, by the way, not just in Argentina, but the world. anti-black racism. After all, there were only 3 countries to vote against the adoption of a resolution declaring the transatlantic slave trade the greatest crime against humanity. Those countries to vote against it were the United States, Argentina, and Israel.
Un hombre negro, una gran responsabilidad, ¿sí? Para luchar por mis derechos, por los derechos de nuestras naciones y dejar el camino lo más abierto posible para acabar con el racismo.
¿Es algo político para usted?
Sí, es social, es político, es cultural, es todo. O sea, en un sistema racista, o sea, no hay plano donde no haya influencia o consecuencias cuando hay un sistema racista.
¿Piensas que las cosas se mejoraron de su tiempo hasta ahorita o es como igualito?
Lo que ha mejorado es la visibilidad. Antes decían que no habíamos, que no existíamos, que no estábamos. Ahora saben que estamos.
Okay.
Eso
Es mejor. Pero las cosas...
Hay mucho por delante.
Okay.
From Al Jazeera, Argentina's rejection of reparations is part of a state-sponsored tradition that has organized the nation since its independence based on specific racial hierarchies. They continue, the Argentinian state constructed a national identity that erased and denied large segments of its own population, elevating whiteness into the universal representation of the nation. Even today, a country composed largely of racialized majorities continues to be described institutionally as homogenous European society.
We have to call out the history, the government, and the deep-seated racism that everybody else in Latin America and the world sees, but we continuously deny. There's a major reason why a vast majority of Latin America and the world don't like us. Argentina is easily one of the most racist countries in the world. We are quite literally the Israel of Latin America. Argentina had one of the quietest but most violent genocides in African and indigenous history. Let's stop lying to ourselves. The white Argentina you see today was engineered. It did not just happen naturally. It was a calculated, state-sponsored project of erasure, built on the same foundations of displacement and violence and erasure as America or Israel. Before Europeans showed up, this land belonged to the Diaguita, the Guarani, the Mapuche, and dozens of other indigenous nations. And in the 18th and 19th centuries, African people were a massive part of our fabric. Enslaved Africans were brought here starting in the 1500s. By the early 1800s, black and mulatto residents made up a third of the population nationwide and up to 50% in some of the interior provinces. Where did they go? They didn't just vanish into thin air, they were systematically eliminated. Then came the late 1800s and President Domingo Sarmiento openly pushed blanqueamiento, aka the whitening. The government literally subsidized the migration of over 6 million Europeans, mostly Italians and Spaniards, between the 1860s and 1960s to dilute the surviving black and indigenous populations. After World War II, the government opened its arms to some of the most horrific white supremacists in human history, becoming the primary destination for the Nazi rat lines. Countless Afro-Argentines fled, crossing borders into Uruguay and Brazil, just to find a place where black culture had a visible established footprint and they could breathe without being treated like ghosts or criminals.
New Lines Mag printed, Argentina did not recognize or see its Afro-descendant population and continues to overlook it today, despite the fact that Maradona, one of Argentina's most iconic players, was of mixed heritage with both indigenous and African ancestry. Argentine racism was addressed in a simplistic manner through class. Maradona was considered black in soul, but not in racial terms, because of his class. Hey, I appreciate you watching.
Damn, that was a mouthful. And you could tell that Maradona was an Israelite because he was one of the best. Alright? He was one of the best. And if you notice in that report, it said he had indigenous ancestry. Alright? And the indigenous people of Argentina are Israelites from the tribe of Naphtali. All right. So groups like the Mapuche, you know, the Kola, the Kwam, the Garunye. All right. These were indigenous people, and these people of the land of Argentina and Chile are Israelites, man. All right. So I'll give you a little overview here. Okay. and the culture of what the Gauchos. All right, you can look that up for yourself. All right, these were all Israelites, man, that had this land until these devils went over there, and we know what happened. Okay, so Argentina had Israelites from the Northern Kingdom, and then they had Israelites from the Southern Kingdom shipped there as slaves. But as that report said, they basically systematically put a lot of blacks, a lot of Jakes from the Southern Kingdom, all right, in wars that they had, and they put them near the front lines. Now that shouldn't surprise you, because in World War II, the French did the same thing. The French, when Nazi Germany was attacking the French, and they had every right to attack the French, okay, all right, don't play that game, all right. What did they do? They got their colonial soldiers, Senegalese, this, that, and the other, and they put them on the front lines. And thankfully, a lot of those Jakes who were fighting for France, you know, the so-called colonials, as soon as them Germans came, they didn't resist, man. They just gave up. Because they didn't want to get shot for their colonial slave master, the French. The French didn't give a fuck about them. All right? And that's what happened in Argentina. And this is over decades, man. All right? Having wars and putting Jakes from the Southern Kingdom on the front lines when they had diseases like yellow fever, you know? The white population went to certain places, you know, for shelter, and they left the black and the indigenous population, all right, in quarantine areas, and they all, you know, many of them died from yellow fever and so forth. So this has been a systematic, what's it called? This is a systematic plan, all right, to get rid of Jake out of Argentina. And then to replace that population, all right, they brought Europeans, Edomites, from Europe and encouraged migration. That's why you have Lionel Messi. If you look at his surname, Messi, it's Italian. Okay. You have another Argentina footballer. What's his name? Mac Allister. Yeah, this is it. There you go. Alexis Mac Allister. Okay. I mean, look at this guy. He's playing for Argentina. He plays for Liverpool. You know, and he's a gingerhead. Look, he's a gingerhead. Okay. Why has he got a Scottish name? Okay. So this is what they've been doing in throughout the years, all right, of the Argentinian governments, all right, throughout the years. But it's a beautiful thing, because Argentina is one of the most poorest countries all down there in South America. Good, man. All right. The Lord is beautiful. Okay. Now I've got here the indigenous of Argentina. All right, let's read this here. Indigenous peoples make up about 3% of Argentina's population. All right, over 1.3 million people. 3%. Wow, man. While European immigration heavily shaped the country, see, more than 58 distinct indigenous groups, most notable the Mapuche, the Kola, the Quam, the Garunye, maintain rich cultures and active communities across Northwest Patagonia and urban centers like Buenos Aires. Okay, so there's still Israelites there, but they had a plan to whiten Argentina. And remember, after World War II, it wasn't a conspiracy theory, it was a fact that many of the Nazi regime fled to Argentina. Okay, the Roman Catholic Church helped that to happen. Okay, and they were supremacists. All right. I would say this, that all of that business of being Aryan Brotherhood and Nazi Supermen, you know, all the things that you see on the documentaries about Hitler is very overblown. All right, but the purpose of all of that rhetoric in Nazi Germany was to make the white Germans feel superior to the Jewish Germans. So those Jewish Germans would leave Germany and go to our homeland, Palestine. That was the whole purpose of it. All right? That's facts. That was the whole purpose of it. But as you said in that report, it said that Maradona had indigenous ancestry and Afro ancestry. So basically, Maradona was an Israelite. And he was one of the best. Okay? And they overlooked his ancestry because he was a damn good footballer. Just like Brazil overlooked Pele being black because he was a damn good footballer. All right? So let's start. Why were they special footballers? Because they were Israelites. Deuteronomy 7:6. All right? For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Okay? So Maradona is looked at one of the best footballers of all time. Okay? Why? Because he's an Israelite. But despite that, these Argentinians are very racist. And you have to understand why. The reason why you have to understand why they're like that is because the history of the country, and a lot of these Argentinians are Edomites. Okay? And we know what the Bible says about Edomites. How they would have a perpetual hatred for us. Okay? Let me get this. We're going to continue on in this prophecy lesson. You know? All right? Now, the subheading says prophecy against Mount Seir. And when it says Mount Seir, that's synonymous with the so-called white man. Because the so-called white man is not originally from Europe. The so-called white man is originally from the Middle East. The so-called Middle East, really, what the country we call today Jordan. All right? And if you go to Jordan, all right, and you look at the old monuments that they have and the structures, it looks just like Roman architecture. All right? Okay? So you go down to, it's Ezekiel 35. All right? Let me start from verse 1. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thou face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it. See, we're not supposed to be prophesying and praying to the Lord to say, oh yeah, please keep the white man's kingdom, you know, let it keep going on. You know, even though the white man's army is killing us, even though they're spitting in our faces, even though they're calling Vinicius Jr. a monkey. All right? And if you don't know Vinicius Jr., I'll show you in a minute. All right? No, we're supposed to be prophesying against this place. All right? That's what the prophets of old did. You know? Nebuchadnezzar, all of these wicked rulers that came against the Lord's chosen people, us Israelites. All right? The Lord always raised prophets to say, look, man, you know what? Your time is coming to an end. I mean, look at Pharaoh. He hardened the Lord hardened his heart, and then the Lord destroyed him. That's what is going to happen to America and all these nations like Argentina and so forth. All right. Verse 3, and say unto it, thus saith the Lord God, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee. So the Lord is not with you cracker Argentinians. All right. All right. I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. All right. Verse 4, I will lay thy cities waste, thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. All right. And why is the Lord going to do this? The main point, verse 5. All right. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity. And what's the time of their calamity? All right. Because we broke the law, statute, commandments of the Heavenly Father, the Lord put curses on us. So we were already, excuse my language, fucked up. But this devil forwarded the affliction. You know? Here it is, you're a slave shipped to Argentina. You know, you're trying to make it by. And then they push you into wars. all right, and put you on the front lines and give you no protection, you know. So you're basically just a body, a double and a stunt double for them white cracker Argentinians. Okay? Thou shed the blood of the children of Israel by the sword, by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. And what is iniquity? All right? Sin upon sin upon sin. All right? So we've already, you know, already been punished, but he's forwarded the affliction, you know. And now, if you look at Argentina, all right, it's a very white society, and that was done by design. All right, that's why history is very important. I love history because you gotta understand why these people are the way they are. All right, and the history goes into it. But guess what? The great thing about it, and Argentina now is going to play England in the semi-finals of the World Cup, you know, and I'm not an England supporter at all, but I hate these people so much that I would rather England beat the shit out of Argentina and get to the finals of this World Cup than them, man, because they won the World Cup the last time, all right? You know what I mean? And their players are openly racist, man. You saw the songs that they were singing, man. You know? Making bullshit fake apologies and shit like that. Now, they mentioned Vinicius Jr. Alright? I'll try and find it here. Okay? There was a touching moment where Vinicius Jr., if you don't know who he is, plays for Brazil, and he gets a world of racial abuse. All right, a world of racial abuse, man. You know, I'm gonna play this. This is a couple of years ago when, because in Spain, it's not just him, but they really target him in Spain, man. You know what I mean? They really target him in Spain, and I'll play this clip. All right, and it's very hard to watch because when I saw this, it was very hard to, you know, to see a grown man cry, but it needs to be seen anyway.
Today was one of the most disgusting moments in football history, and I don't say that lightly. Vinicius Jr., who has been the subject of racial abuse for months now in La Liga, today he received a red card for an incident where he was the victim. At around the 70th minute today, the ball goes out of bounds near the Valencia Ultras section at the Mestalla. It's unclear what exactly was said, but we can use our imagination. When Vinny Jr. went to confront the fans, he clearly showed the referee exactly the fans that were making the racist remarks. Nothing happens, and the game wasn't abandoned when it should have been. Later in the game, after it resumed, the Valencia player here seen provokes Vinny Jr. Vinny clearly gets choked, and obviously, like any man, he reacts to it. The referee goes to VAR, checks the incident, and gives Vinny Jr. a red. Absolutely disgusting. La Liga should stand up and do something against this.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of shit that he's been going through, you know, and it's culminated in I think this clip needs to be seen because there was a Japanese reporter who asked him during the World Cup this, and I'm just gonna play it for you because she showed empathy for his situation, basically.
طيب يا غريب
This is Japanese journalist Kiyomi Nakamura tearing up when she asked star winger Vinicius Jr. a question.
Quando você precisa de mais força em sua mente, o que você coloca? O que te ajudou para ficar tão forte?
It was a moment of compassion, of empathy, and disbelief of what this man has had to endure. The original uploader would translate the beginning of her question, and it went like this. If racism didn't exist, just think about what Vinicius Jr. has gone through.
Preguntado por el peso que tiene la lucha antirracista en su vida y si tiene más o menos peso que jugar al fútbol, y dice que sí, que jugar al fútbol es muy importante, pero que la lucha antirracista.
He has let it all out in press conferences because it is such a common occurrence. And most recently, fans in the stands perform monkey chants.
Racismo. Racismo. Racismo.
In the same match, Vinicius was racially abused by Gianluca Prestiani, who covered his mouth with his kit so the cameras couldn't capture it. Let's break here for a moment. At the World Cup, we saw the Vinicius law be put into effect if unaware, and most recently, Paraguay's Miguel Amaron was shown a straight red card following a VAR check after it was found that he covered his mouth to speak to one of the Turkey players in stoppage time at the end of the first half. This is a net positive because if one person were to say something to another, and yet they put their shirt, their kit, over their mouth, there is a presumption of guilt. This is a way of stomping out racism in world football and is a net positive on society. Fans continue to target him in public. He'd receive more abuse. Here's the thing, even when he's not playing.
Made headlines all over the world, but not necessarily here in Spain. We're going to take a look at how this story is being covered here, and I think it's important to look at the language used by the media here. I'm going to start off by looking at the Catalan Sports Daily Sport. On the front cover, the lead story is about Lionel Messi. There is a story at the top, and it says, Escándalo Vinicius en Mestalla. It doesn't say racist scandal in Mestalla. It doesn't say Vinicius suffers racism once again, scandalously in Mestalla. It says Vinicius scandal in Mestalla, almost putting the blame on him.
The media treatment, horrible.
as opposed to just telling everybody that you're fighting racism and you've been doing so for years. Tell everybody what you've been doing. Show us some kind of evidence of that. But with no evidence, certainly within the stadiums, certainly especially as far as Vinicius Jr. is concerned, I'm not sure how you, as the head of a league, I'm not sure how you, as any right-thinking adult human being, sits down and pens that as a response to Vinicius Jr.
In La Liga matches, time and time again, opposing fans, those who despise Real Madrid and him, label him a monkey.
I am the center.
Yeah, that's his life, you know. You know, that's his life. It doesn't matter how much money he's making or how many goals he's scoring, you know. And I remember that incident at Benfica. You know, the guy scored a goal and he celebrates. He's Brazilian, so he does you know like how Roger Miller did his little shimmy in the 1990 World Cup. He does that, and then they're throwing bananas at him. They call him the N-word, monkey, this, that, and so forth. But remember, he's a Jake. He's subject. Doesn't matter how much money he's got. Doesn't matter how nice his white wife looks like. At the end of the day, he's under these curses. You know? All right? So them calling him all these bywords, monkey, this, that, and so forth, is just Bible prophecy. Deuteronomy 28 and 37. All right? And thou shalt become an astonishment. Oh, look at that nigger. A proverb and a byword. You know? Monkey doing monkey chants. Hoo, 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 hoo. You know? Among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. Okay? And how did Vinicius Jr.'s family get to Brazil? On a smelly, dirty, stinky slave ship. And listen, I've been to Spain. I've been to Spain once. I've been to Madrid. When you go to a place like Madrid as a tourist, that's one thing. But living there is another. And I only went there for like 2 days. Me and my mate, we went to see Real Madrid versus Liverpool in the Bernabeu. A lovely stadium, you know, this, that, and the other. Nice food and so forth. But when I saw Jakes, all right, when I saw Israelites, man, they were selling souvenirs and things. And then as soon as the police come, they will grab their sacks, you know, scoop everything up and run off, you know. Because many of them are illegal, or some of them are illegal, but they're doing something illegal because it's hard in Spain, man. In Spain, it's very hard for an Israelite to even, you know, live there, man. You know, to function in that racist society. Just like how it is, or how it was over here. And here's not perfect, you know what I mean? But if you look at Spain, Spain is like how England was in the 1970s and 80s when it comes to blacks and other minorities. Do you know what I mean? So, and you can see the videos. Look, just all the related videos. When racism goes too far. You know, racism in the World Cup. This, that, and the other. And then we have this other situation with this Paraguayan woman calling Kylian Mbappe a monkey and this, that, and the other. You know, this is the life of an Israelite. And you have to understand that over in these Latin American countries, many of these people, all right, some of them are our people who are racist, okay? Because, look, not all Israelites, the Bible says not all Israel is Israel, man, all right? A lot of our people, their mind has been polluted by this world, you know? But many of these people in Latin America, all right, who are doing these things, a lot of them are Edomites, man. Remember, the Spanish and the Portuguese, they conquered most of those lands, you know? Okay? And believe me, man, when they conquered there, you know what I mean, they destroyed the indigenous population, which is the Northern Kingdom, and they imported the Southern Kingdom, you know, as well. All right, to build up the economy and be slaves and so forth. But the great thing is now, you look at Argentina. Argentina, their economy is is terrible. It's terrible, right? They've had an economic crisis for years. And now I put this in Google, Argentina's economic crisis, and I said, how much is toilet paper? And the other reason why I said that, because I saw a documentary a couple of years ago, and this Argentinian woman was showing the report around, and she went to the shops, and she was saying, you know what, toilet roll is like $12 and shit like that. And I was like, wow, you know what I mean? Argentina has some of the worst economic problems in the world. All right, and that's payback. That's justice. The Heavenly Father's doing that. Good. All right. And I put it in Google here. It says, due to Argentina's economic crisis and high inflation, toilet paper prices vary greatly. A standard 4-pack ranges from 3,390 to 7,600. All right, Argentinian money, or in, let's put it in dollars, £3.50 to £8.50 US dollars. Can you imagine going to a shop and buying a 4-pack of toilet roll for £8.50, or in American dollars, £8.50 for 4 rolls of toilet roll? That's how destroyed their economy is. Hey, let's give the Heavenly Father a clap for that, man. You know, may he provide for his elect there, and anyone he has mercy on, our people. But may he keep destroying that Argentinian, economy. And when you see those people that are going to World Cup games and this, that, and the other, many of them are Argentinians that don't live in Argentina. All right, because Argentina is so bad. All right, they've had to go other places, to find work. All right, while boat purchases cost about 16,500 to 21,000 per pack, or 48 rolls, or massive jumbo rolls. See, because their economy is tanking, man. All right, they have something called like what the Weimar Republic had under before Hitler came to power, hyperinflation. Over there is very hard to eat. So over there in Argentina, soup kitchens are the norm for the average person, man. And good for them, man. Don't give a flying fuck about them. And one of the scriptures, well, this is about our people, but one of the scriptures that basically sums up their economy is Haggai 1 and 6. This is about us, but you can relate it to their economy. And good, man. They're some of the most, look, they're not liked, man. Them Argentinians, they're not liked, man. And you can see why. Okay? And I really do hope that England beat the shit out of them in the next semi-final. Fuck them, man. Alright? This is Haggai 1 and 6. Ye have sown much and bring in little. Ye eat, but you have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none to warm you. And he that earneth wages, enough wages, to put into a bag with holes. Okay? Meaning when they get the money, alright, money comes in and it's just falling out of your pocket. Because the cost of everything is so high. This one scripture sums up the Argentinian economy, man. Alright? So may the Lord keep destroying that economy of that wicked country. All right. Now we're gonna switch a bit because I want to talk about this what's this guy? Nolan Wells. All right. And then we'll end it there. Because we were talking about it, because the other day we had a sit down. Was it? Oh, it was yesterday, actually. I'm saying about it the other day. But we were talking about this, and look, man, you have to be balanced. Like, when you hear things like this, the Nolan Wells case where this Jake, all right, let me put it up. Is it Nolan? There you go. See, as soon as I put Nolan Wells, this guy here, you know, he went on a vacation with Edomites, right? All right, to, you know, on a so-called island off America, Horn Island or whatever. His university buddies and all that stuff. And there's a lot of dodgy things in this, because, number one, in America, you are only allowed to drink when you're 21 years old. All right, and they're all under 21. You know, and what they did, they actually doctored some of the photos, because, you know, some of these photos here, all right, they doctored the photos because, you know, it had them drinking alcohol and they didn't want to get in trouble. And apparently one of these Edomites, these so-called white boys, one of them, their mum is a judge, okay? But they went on a vacation and he didn't come home, you know, and then they found his body and he's dead, you know. And I remember I was talking about it on, you know, after the sit down. You know what I mean? You know, and the scripture came to mind, never trust thy enemy, which is true. But the reality of the situation is, a lot of our people, they're not in this truth, man. So they don't have this wisdom when they're going about, you know, their daily lives. They don't have this. If the Lord has not opened their minds to receive this truth and embrace it, they're not walking with wisdom. Okay? So you're a Jake, you're going to university, you know, a high prestige university, and everyone around you is an Edomite, you know, and you want to fit in and you want to drink and party, this, that, and the other. All right, that's one thing. But going on a boat trip, you know, with killers, basically. Because a lot of you Jakes don't see the so-called white man, woman, and child as a killer. Well, this case proves it. Okay? The only people that have dropped nuclear bombs, alright, ever, is them. Alright? Most of the genocides, we're talking about Argentina, that was a genocide. Alright? Native Americans, genocide. Us, so-called black people, alright, Israelites from the Southern Kingdom, genocide. Okay? You gotta be careful how you roll, man. Okay? But let's be balanced about that. If you ain't in this truth, you ain't walking with wisdom. You know? And unfortunately, his life is gone, man. Okay? So it's a cautionary tale. Alright, let's get into it.
The male friends did return. The young girl that he met on that island named Katie came forward and was cooperating with authorities. Just to give you a quick rundown, the boys said that Nolan decided to stay behind on the island because he wanted to talk to Katie. The boys got in the boat, went home. Katie says that he left with the boys. He did not leave with her, apparently. Obviously, what has been reported is that his body was found on Horn Island. Nolan Wells' family is now speaking out. You need to hear some of these other details that are now being reported. Listen to what they said on Good Morning America, and then I'm going to tell you what happened when they, I guess, confronted his friends about his keys. Listen to this.
They say that he stayed behind voluntarily. Why would he stay behind?
That we cannot answer. I can't fathom why he would. I
don't know why he would. We always taught him to, if you go with a group, you stay with a group. Mm-hmm. Even when he was in college, he would say, "Dad, well, we're gonna ride down to a party or something in another city. So I was out telling him, look, if you go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from the group. So I always say safety is in numbers. And he always said, yes, sir. So he knew to stay with his group. So why would he split from his group? I don't know.
So that
unless there was an altercation. This is what I was wondering, like if there was an altercation, but at the same time, this would fit what Katie said. Katie's statement, I guess, was that Nolan left with the guys. The guys said that Nolan stayed behind to talk to Katie. Let's continue on more here.
Would have been unusual for him to split from the group. And you said he would always check in with you. Did he check in with you that day?
So that day, no, I don't. But of course, too, they were on the boat. And usually when he is out there, which it's not uncommon, he's, I think, since last year, he's been going there occasionally with his friends. And so it would always just be like, hey, Mom, I'm back type of thing. But this time there was no call or text from him. It was from his friend.
And then too,
did you hear that part? So the call that came through, the text that came through was from his friend. This is something my parents used to have us do back in the day, is like, you know, when we were leaving the house, wherever we got to, where we were supposed to be, we were supposed to call our parents and let them know that we got there safely, and then contact our parents when we were about to head home. This was like a standard in my house when I was growing up. And so, you know, that right there, not hearing from him, she probably had a feeling something, you know, might not be all right.
Really didn't worry a lot about it because, you know, it was his last weekend to have fun. Because that Monday he had to report to school. We was preparing to take him back for camp to prepare for the season. So, you know, we're gonna see. He wanted to have his last little hurrah before he locked down and get ready for the season. Because, like I said, the entire summer he's training. He got more serious. He started to understand what I was trying to tell him about football, not just being fun, but as you get farther in it, it becomes a business. If you want to excel, and you have to understand, and you have to understand both at the same time.
And we know, Ben, that you said that you're going to do an independent investigation.
Yes.
And you say you have Nolan's cell phone and messages were deleted. How could you tell messages were deleted?
Well, his parents got the phone back, and that's something that's important, Michael, because they tracked this phone on Life 360.
So Life 360, but when I received the phone call from Warren, I immediately called my friend Tashima, and I said, hey, have you guys seen Nolan? Because her two sons, Jalen and Javon, like, they grew up together. They played City League sports together. When they got into school, they played sports together. And so she was like, hey, like, okay, the boys were pulling up the location from Snapchat. So the Snapchat location looks completely different than the Life 360 location. So when I pulled up Life 360, it was different. It was showing everywhere the phone had been. Like, I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land. Like, I'm not. He's like, but no, he didn't come back with us.
Well, how were you able to get the phone?
So we tracked it, and my friend Tashima went and picked it up.
It was.
This part is important, the fact that they tracked the phone. So just hold on to that now. That's important. It's not as if his friends contacted and say, hey, we got Nolan's phone. No, they tracked the phone. Let's continue on.
Like they said, we got his phone, they tracked it. And that highlights all these contradictions, Michael. The fact that they said Nolan was talking to a young woman, and she said that he said, I'm going back to get on the boat with the boys. The boys said that he said he was going to stay with her. And so that's an obvious contradiction. And then this video of this, you can hear an argument going where Nolan is saying, give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing? And so then his phone ends up missing. I don't know any teenagers, Michael Strahan, who says, if you believe their story, I'm going to stay behind and I'm going to leave my phone.
That's what I was saying. That, to me, that did not make any sense. So somebody is not telling the truth. Katie says that Nolan told her, this is Ben Crump. He is representing the family. Katie says that Nolan told her that he was going back to leave with his friends. This would be the male friends that were with him in those pictures that you're seeing going around the internet, right? So if he told Katie that he was going to get back on the boat and leave with them, then that means he obviously, again, wasn't staying there to talk to Katie. Katie seemed to be the only one who was willing to come forward and talk to the authorities, because it's very obvious. It seems like Katie has nothing to hide. This is important, guys. Like I said, two things can't be. This is one of those times where two can't be true. It can't be true that he left with them, but he also stayed behind with her. One or the other happened. And then he separated from his phone. Hold on to that. Now let's get into the conversation about the keys. This is what the family said during the press conference today. Now, Al Sharpton is there, and honestly, I wish Al Sharpton wasn't a part of this, because it makes it political. And this is not political. The parents are trying to find out what happened to their son. The authorities have ruled that his death is a drowning. That was ruled before there was the autopsy. There are no results as of right now from the autopsy. Only the autopsy can actually determine the cause of death. So why would the authorities just rule cause of death drowning, and the autopsy hasn't been done and said nothing else to see here, no sign of foul play? Don't you find that to be weird? And I told you guys before, Mississippi, there is a history, and it still happens today, of Black people disappearing in Mississippi, because at first he was missing. But the authorities, they weren't willing to look any further. That's why the parents had to seek for further help. Listen to what happened to Nolan's keys. This is important.
And then we met up where his car was, which was at a separate location. There were issues obtaining the key. But even so, there's just a lot of...
So tell them about what happened with the key.
So I'm going to let my husband tell you about that, because he actually went up to the door to get the key, because at that point, I was just not in my right mind. This has just been an awful situation. Just terrible.
Elmore Watson, the father.
Okay, so the situation with the key. When we got to the house, a few of his friends, they were already there. And they were at the door in the house, asking questions. So when I walked up, they were getting, things were getting kind of intense. So I turned to them and told them, I need you guys to calm down. I don't do this to me right now. I need them to kind of trust me so they can give me something. So I was able to calm them down. So the guy, he's in one of the pictures, but he came out of the room half asleep or whatever, I think Jack's or whatever. And I said, look, I'm Nolan's father. I'm here to get his keys so I can get his car. I said, he's like, his car's in New York. His car's parked in New York. So he was like, I don't know, man. I know it's like.
That's a typo there with that caption. His car was not parked in New York. It was parked in the yard. He said in the yard. Just letting you guys know.
I said, well, if Nolan was like your brother, would you please go in your room and see if you can find my son's keys so I can take his car home? He walks off, 2 or 3 minutes, come back. I can't find the keys. I said, okay, so at that point, I get the boys and I move them out the house, because I didn't want them to go into the house and start tearing up these people's houses, because there'll never be a hole in the situation. So walk outside by the car. One of the guys that was in the house with us, he was on the phone with a girl, and the girl told him that Nolan's keys were on top of this Jack's guy's Xbox in the house, because apparently she was there with him earlier. So he goes back up to the door by himself, and 5 minutes later, the keys come out. So now I feel like you lied to me. So now I'm really like in distress with you. But
so the girl that the guy was talking to on the phone knew exactly where Nolan's keys were, on top of the Xbox. And this is one of those situations where, just listening to how they initially responded, it comes across as if you're trying to cover up something. Well, I don't know, and I don't know this, and I don't know. It comes across that way. And here's what I'm wondering if it happened. They weren't the only people at Horn Island. Somebody somewhere saw something. And I'm wondering if Nolan did get back on that boat and maybe there was some type of altercation, or maybe, who knows? You know, these days you never know. What if he was pushed off the boat?
Wow. You see? Hey. That's his ass now. You know? His ass is gone now, man. You know? And that happened in the state of Mississippi. Alright? Okay. And we know about that state, man. You know? Mississippi. Fuck me, man. You know? So you have to and I remember we were talking about this yesterday, you know what I mean? But as I said, he ain't in this truth. You know, I'm not gonna go on a boat with Edomites, man. All right, I wouldn't wanna go on a boat with you wicked ass Jakes as well, man. You know what I mean? You know, but they're covering up something, man. Of course, you know. All right, it's a cautionary tale. All right, this is Proverbs 13 and 20. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. And he had a companion of fools. You know, they were drinking this, that, and the other. And when you drink, and you're drinking massive amounts of alcohol, you know, their true hatred for him must have come out, man. You know, something must have happened, you know, and they killed that guy. All right, but notice the authorities. Oh, it's a drowning. Yeah, but how did he drown? How did he drown? How did he get in the water? You know, where was his body found? Why you not having an autopsy? All right, first, and then determining the cause of death. I mean, this is all very suspicious, man. You know, so it is what it is. It's just a cautionary tale, man. Okay. And remember, the so-called white man has a silver, like the tribe of Gad said. You know, they said the white man speaks with a forked tongue. All right, and what animal has a forked tongue? A serpent, man. All right, that's an old Gadite saying. Look it up for yourselves. In Psalms 55 and 21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. All right. Oh yeah, come on the boat to us. You know, we're gonna chill, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, let's relax. Yeah. Come on the boat, man. Yeah. I mean, you know, I ain't racist. I got black friends, man. Yeah. Let's go. You know, his words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Something happened to that guy, you know. So right now it's just a cautionary tale, but this is the shit that is going on in this wicked world that we're living in, man. You know? So that's why we have to take heed to prayer and also to watch our steps, as in how we speak to people, how we roll, you know? These things need to be done, man. You know what I mean? Because this place is wicked. And we have enemies all around us. We have Israelites, you know, who are not really Israelites. They're heathens, they're enemies. And we have the other nations hating us as well, man. You know? Okay? So listen, I'm going to leave it at that. You know, I pray you're edified. You know, to the next lesson. Shalom.